Single Mom's Heartwarming Act, revealed how a drunk CEO transformed her life in just 6 months. On a bustling Friday evening, the cozy diner in the heart of suburbia thrummed with laughter and the clatter of dishes. Customers filled the booths, sharing stories over steaming cups of coffee. In the middle of this everyday symphony stood Sarah, a devoted single mother in her late 30s, balancing trays loaded with burgers and fries. Her tired eyes sparkled with warmth as she navigated through the hustle, her heart set on providing a better life for her 2 children. But amidst the comfort of routine, the looming weight of bills and expectations pressed down like a heavy blanket. Then, everything turned. The door swung open, releasing a gust of cold air and a wave of shocked gasps. In walked David, the wildly charismatic CEO of a booming tech company, reeking of expensive whiskey and missed opportunity. He stumbled toward the counter, oblivious to the disapproving stares. For Sarah, he stood as a symbol of privilege, a world apart from her life of struggle and resilience. But as she poured his coffee, she caught a glimpse behind that confident mask. The sadness in his eyes stirred something within her, a surprising compassion. "Can I help you?" she asked, the words tinged with both exasperation and curiosity. His reply was a slurred confession, a revelation of the pressures choking his success. Deep in the corporate trenches, where the stakes felt insurmountable, he found himself lost in pain from family ties tearing at his soul. Sarah felt her heart twist. Here was a man with everything, yet he appeared more broken than whole. She listened, her own struggles creeping into the conversation, sharing bits and pieces of her life's single motherhood, the dreams deferred, the forever juggling of work and home. Every day in the diner became a dance of vulnerability for them both. David, grappling with his demons, and Sarah, holding fast to her dreams of stability for her kids. Amidst the tension and connection, an insidious bond formed. Was it possible to find compassion for a man who had it all? And should she open her heart to someone whose life seemed so perfectly designed while hers was a constant scramble? Then, in a moment of overwhelming emotion, David offered her a lifeline, a job at his company. Her gut twisted at the thought. Could she leave behind the diner, where every face felt like family? Yet the possibility of a better future dangled before her like a golden carrot. What kind of mother would she be if she turned it down? Just when she thought she found clarity, doubt crept in. The thrill of hope collided with pride, a dance of expectations that threatened to pull them apart. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the moment that would redefine their lives. A devastating crisis hit their community. The familiar diner became a refuge as Sarah and David faced the shattering impact of loss that reverberated through their town. As they witnessed how the invisible divides of wealth scattered their neighbors, both felt called to confront their own realities in a new light. Could the kindness born from unseen struggles weave threads of connection between them? Would compassion be enough to bridge their contrasting worlds? As they stood at the precipice of change, the question loomed: would they embrace the transformation together, or let the divisions of society pull them apart forever? The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The crisis had shaken the community to its core. Businesses shuttered, families displaced, and despair hung thick in the air. Sarah poured her heart into the diner, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy for her children and the regulars who had become like family. Yet, every time she glanced at David, the weight of reality pressed harder on her. David had transformed since that first night. His drunken facade began to fade, revealing a man intent on rebuilding not only his company but also his sense of self. He spent hours in the diner, discussing plans to support the community, donations, temporary jobs, even partnerships with local businesses. Seeing him so passionate, Sarah couldn't help but be moved. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow through the diner windows, David cornered her in the back booth, a fresh stack of paperwork in hand. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady, "I want to open a community center. A place where people can find support, job training, and sometimes just a warm meal. I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" She felt the rush of adrenaline. This was more than just a project, it was a lifeline for people in pain. But still, doubt crept in. "David, it's a huge commitment. I barely have enough time as it is. Trust me," he pressed, his eyes earnest. "You've helped so many already. Your heart, it's what this community needs. We have this opportunity to be the change they're looking for." As he spoke, Sarah felt an ember of hope spark within her. Perhaps it was possible to bridge their worlds, to stand against the weight of expectations and create something beautiful together. But there was still a nagging voice in her mind, whispering doubts. What if this was just another dream that would crumble under pressure? Her resolve wavered, until David continued, "You know, there is something truly inspiring about how you care for your kids. You've shown me what it means to fight for what's right. Let us fight for our community too." His words hung in the air, an invitation and a challenge all at once. Sarah's heart raced. Could she do this? Could she really step beyond the comfort of the diner and into something so much bigger? The next morning, she gathered her children and sat them down. "I need you to understand something," she started, her voice firm but filled with warmth. "I have a chance to help people and I want to take it. But it means putting in a lot of work, and we might have to make some sacrifices." Her son, Jake, looked at her with bright eyes. "Mom, you always say we should help others. This is a great way to do it, right?" Soft tears pricked her eyes. Their support meant everything. Encouraged by their acceptance, Sarah turned back to David, ready to dive in. As they started listing ideas and roles, their synergy became palpable, a dance of dreams and determination. But even as hope surged, something deep down told her that every step forward would come with new struggles. Would the burden bring them closer or tear them apart? Days turned into weeks, and as the first community meeting approached, she felt the gravity of what they were trying to build. With the dust from loss still settling, could they really create a safe haven for their neighbors? Just as the meeting was set to begin, an unexpected figure stepped through the doors of the diner, drawing gasps from the crowd. A familiar face emerged, one that threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. What would this mean for Sarah and David? Would the past haunt them as they sought to transform their futures? Silence enveloped the diner, the air thick with tension. Everyone turned to the entrance, their faces etched with disbelief. Sarah clutched the edge of her booth, her heart racing. The familiar figure stepping inside was none other than Lisa, David's estranged wife, the one who had left him in the wake of their crumbling marriage. The whispers that followed her like a shadow only added to the nervous energy in the room. "Mom," Jake murmured, peering up at Sarah with confusion. "Just wait," she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. Lisa's disheveled appearance only deepened the collective concern. There was a rawness about her, as if the weight of her choices had pressed her down to the floor. Sarah's instinct was to protect those around her, yet she couldn't help but feel something else altogether: sympathy for the very person whose abandonment had compounded David's pain. David stood frozen, his earlier confidence shattered. "What are you doing here, Lisa?" His voice came out low, almost a whisper, but it carried an undeniable edge. "I need to talk," she said, her eyes darting around the diner, finally locking onto David's. The weight of unspoken words hung like a thick curtain between them. "I want to make things right. Can we just talk?" The crowd shifted uncomfortably, and Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. How could they focus on the community center now? This was a punch in the gut for David. He had finally started to reclaim his life, and here she was, threatening to tear it all down again. Now. Here. David shot back, anger and hurt mixing in his tone. He looked around as if searching for support from the onlookers, whose expressions varied from skeptical to sympathetic. "Please, just hear me out," Lisa begged, her voice breaking. "I'm not asking to come back into your life, but I I need to explain. Sarah remembered the hope that had sparked within her when she agreed to partner with David. But now, questions loomed large. Would this confrontation derail all they had worked toward? Was it even possible to rebuild with the shadow of the past so vividly looming? Let us step outside, David finally said, his expression unreadable. He stepped toward the door, with Lisa following, leaving the diner's patrons buzzing with curiosity. Sarah's heart pounded as she realized the very foundation of what they were building could crack open with this unexpected reunion. What do we do now? Jake asked, his innocent question stinging her heart. We wait, Sarah replied, even as anxiety twisted in her stomach. She unfolded her arms and took a deep breath, trying to project calm, though she felt anything but. Her thoughts raced. What could Lisa possibly say to make everything right? The more she thought about it, the more she feared it might dismantle David's newfound resolve. Moments felt like hours as she watched the two shadows converse outside the diner. It was hard to hear their voices through the thick glass windows, but the tension in their body language was palpable. Then, just as she thought she couldn't bear the suspense any longer, Lisa stepped back. She looked unsteady, her hands waving slightly as if she were pleading. David's face was tight, jaw clenching as he took a step back. Their discussion was heated, the gravity of the situation spiraling out of control before her eyes, and then, impossible as it seemed, a single tear rolled down Lisa's face. Sarah's heart sank, and she couldn't help but wonder, could there be a future for them all, or was this just the calm before another storm? What would she do if David chose to let Lisa back in? As the meeting wound down and the room began to disperse, Sarah sensed something precarious shifting in the air. It might just upend everything they were trying to build together, and in the depths of uncertainty, she found herself standing at a crossroads. What would David choose? And what would they do when faced with the haunting specter of the past? The door creaked open, releasing a blast of cold air that sliced through the diner's warmth. David stepped back inside, his eyes narrowed, masking a tempest of emotions beneath a barely there facade. Sarah felt the intensity in the room shift, as though everyone held their breath waiting for his words, waiting to see which way the tides would turn. David? Sarah's voice was soft, barely more than a whisper. She could see traces of uncertainty etched on his features, conflicting emotions flickering behind his gaze. He looked at her, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if the world outside the diner faded into silence. She's back, he murmured, the weight of the words settling like dust. What did she say? Jake asked, his childlike curiosity sparking a pang of protectiveness in Sarah's heart. She glanced at her son, wishing she could shield him from this mess but knowing that was impossible. David looked at the ground, his hands fisting at his sides. She wants to explain, he finally said, voice shaking slightly. She says, it wasn't what it seemed. That she made a mistake. The shake of his head, the barely suppressed anger, told Sarah he was struggling with the pull of nostalgia against the need for self-preservation. Was it even possible to believe Lisa now? Or had he begun to heal just to stand at the edge of that old pitfall once again? Is she serious? Sarah asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She seems like it. David's eyes darted to the door again, as if he were ready to bolt back outside. I just can't believe she'd come back now, after everything. After I finally started feeling whole again. Sarah felt her chest tighten. She wanted to say the right thing, to make it better. It's okay to be worried. This is a lot to take in. I don't even know what I'm feeling, he pushed through clenched teeth. Part of me wants to tell her to leave, that she has no right to show up after disappearing all those years. Then there's this other part that remembers, I don't know, maybe the good times. The diner hummed faintly. People were still stealing glances, intrigued by the drama unfolding before them yet uncertain about how much they should witness. Sarah cast her eyes outside toward Lisa, pacing as she stared at the ground, clearly battling her own demons. David, you don't have to make a decision now, Sarah said, feeling the warm tendrils of empathy wrap around her heart. You can give yourself time. You're not just a prize to be claimed. It's your life, your heart. He looked at her, weighing her words. But what if she is telling the truth? What if I just close that door and regret it later? Do you think it's worth the risk? Sarah hesitated, knowing how easy it was to fall into the well of what-ifs. I don't know, he sighed, the burden hanging heavily over him. Jake nudged Sarah, his innocent gaze wide and questioning. Will she stay, Mom? Can we be a family again? The question cut deep, piercing through Sarah's heart. How could she explain the complexity of love and loss to him? Family was fragile and sometimes tangled with pain, a concept Jake had yet to grapple with fully. Before Sarah could answer, the diner door swung open once more. Lisa stepped back inside, her cheeks flushed red, eyes glistening. She scanned the room, landing on David. Something in her vulnerability seemed to crack the resolve he'd been holding onto like armor. David, she called, her voice trembling. David turned toward her, and it was like the weight of the world shifted closer to breaking. The tension hung thick as Lisa approached, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if time had stilled. Can we talk? Just the two of us. As Sarah watched them, hope and dread battled within her. David's heart was in her hands, and she felt the gravity of their choices hanging momentarily suspended in air. And yet uncertainty loomed. What would David choose to do next? Outside, the sky darkened, promising a storm. Would it bring clarity, or would it serve to drown them all in turmoil again? As Sarah held her breath, she realized that love was the hardest fight of all. Would David be ready to step into that ring again? The air between David and Lisa crackled with a tension so thick it felt electric. It was as if they existed in a bubble, the world around them fading into an indistinct blur of murmurs and clinking dishes. Sarah held Jake's small hand tightly, her heart pounding to a rhythm of fear and hope. Please, Lisa said, her voice piercing through the ambient noise. Just hear me out. I need to explain. I owe you that much, at least. David's expression remained guarded, but there was a flicker of longing in his eyes. You've had years to explain, Lisa. This is a bit late, don't you think? I know, she replied, her voice breaking slightly. I never expected to come back like this. If I was strong enough to face you then, maybe things would have been different. A storm rolled outside, mirroring the turmoil inside David's heart. He shifted on his feet, torn between anger and an undeniable urge to listen. It was the same struggle that had haunted him for years, the desire for closure battling the remnants of the love he thought he'd buried deep within. Look, David began, but Lisa cut him off. Please. Let me talk. I've been through so much since I left. I can't just pretend I didn't damage everything we had. And I'm not just here for myself. I'm here because I understand now what I lost. Every word seemed to land like heavy raindrops, and Sarah felt Jake tense next to her. She wished she could shield him from the weight of their history, but this moment was crucial. It was a lesson in love, hurt, and forgiveness, one she desperately hoped David was ready to face. David, Lisa continued, stepping closer, her hands trembling. I've missed you every single day. I've been working on myself and I was scared to come back, scared of what you'd feel. But I didn't mean to hurt you. David's chest heaved, his breath shallow as he regarded her with a mixture of regret and longing. I don't know if it's fair for you to expect me to forgive you just because you've had a revelation. This isn't just about forgiveness. It's about understanding. I want to show you that I've changed, and I want to be part of your life again, if you'll let me. I know I'm asking for so much, but I also know what we had. His silence was deafening. The chaotic hum of the diner felt distant, like a fading melody. Sarah watched as he fought to compose himself, one breath a struggle, another a fleeting hope. Mom, Jake whispered, glancing from David to Lisa, confusion painted across his small features. Can we really be a family? The question hit David like a freight train, colliding with the dreams he once held dear. He turned to Jake, heart aching at the sincerity in his son's gaze. It was one thing to weigh his agony against his memories of Lisa, but Jake was an innocent thread woven into the fabric of this complicated story. For a moment, Lisa's eyes softened at the sight of her son. "Jake, I never wanted to leave you, and it breaks my heart to think that I caused you pain. I'm trying to be better for both of you." David's jaw clenched. Did he truly believe her? Did he trust that every promise she made this time around wouldn't shatter like glass? They were standing at a precipice, and he felt it in his bones, the risk of falling into old patterns or finding something new. "Just give me some time," he finally managed to say, looking between Lisa and Jake. "I can't make any promises." "I'll take that time," Lisa said, her voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "I'll wait as long as it takes." As David stepped back, uncertainty clouded his features, while Jake looked between them, eyes wide and searching for answers. The storm outside rumbled intensely, but in that moment, there was a flicker of understanding, fragile and tentative. Would David truly open his heart again? Would Lisa prove that she was worthy of that second chance? The silence hung heavy, and Sarah felt the cool wind seep through the cracks of their lives, reminding her of the choices yet to come. Could they weather this storm together? With every heartbeat, the impending rain drummed against the diner's windows, mirroring the tempest in their souls, a storm of memories, hopes, and the fragility of love reborn. The thunder rolled overhead, a reminder that even the strongest storms could eventually pass. David glanced out the window, watching sheets of rain dance down the glass. There was a time, not so long ago, when Lisa's presence would have brought him comfort, her voice soothing his doubts. Now, there was only chaos in his heart. "David?" Lisa's voice broke through his reverie, her eyes wide, searching for understanding. "Just give me a second," he murmured, shaking off the weight of nostalgia. He straightened up, returning to the challenge at hand. "What is it you want, Lisa? You've come back, but what does that actually mean for us?" Her breath hitched. "It means I want a chance to prove myself. I want Jake to know me, to know that I'm trying to be his mother again. I know I messed up, but I want to fix it." Jake blinked up at Lisa, clearly torn. "But you left, Mom. It hurt. How can I trust you?" His words pierced through the thick fog of emotions swirling around them. David saw the glimmer of fear in Lisa's eyes, and despite the history that surrounded them, he felt a flicker of sympathy. The struggle they all felt was palpable in the air. "Trust isn't something that can be built overnight," Sarah interjected softly, moving closer. "It takes time, it takes effort." Her heart went out to both Lisa and Jake. She could only imagine how hard it was for both of them to try to bridge the gap between the past and what could be. David rubbed the back of his neck, glancing at Sarah and then back to Lisa. "It's not just about you coming back. It's about how you plan to stay. What will it take for you to be there for him, for us?" Lisa's resolve deepened. "I want to be there for Jake, for you. I've started therapy. I'm figuring out my issues. I can't change the past, but I can work on my future. I promise I'll show you both that I'm committed." Another clap of thunder shook the diner, but the sounds of the storm outside felt muted compared to the riot of emotions inside them. David couldn't deny that he wanted to believe her. There had been a spark in her voice, a determination that hadn't been there before. But what if it was all just talk? "Promises don't mean much when they come from someone who has broken trust," he finally said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Words are just words. I know. And I'm not asking for a free pass. All I'm asking for is a chance to show you that I can be better. I can be the mom you need." Her eyes reflected a mix of desperation and hope, and David couldn't shake the feeling that there was something genuine in her plea. The storm raged on, but in that moment, it felt like they were all holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Jake's small hand tightened around his mother's, a signal of his guarded openness. He wanted to believe in his mother. "And what if I fail again?" Lisa whispered, her voice quivering. What if I let you down a second time? David felt the soft ache of longing in his chest. It was easy to dwell on the failures of the past, but deep down, he wanted to believe in the possibility of resurrection. Then we try again, he replied quietly. It's not an easy path, Lisa. You need to understand that. With the rain pounding against the windows, an unlikely understanding blossomed between them, fragile yet vibrant. Maybe, Lisa started, her voice steadier now, that's all any of us can do, right? Their eyes met, and he saw something new, a flicker of shared hope, tempered with caution. But before David could respond, Jake pulled at Lisa's sleeve. Mom, if I'm going to give you a chance, you have to promise to never leave again. She nodded, tears sparkled in her eyes. I promise, Jake. I'm here for good now. The storm outside reached a crescendo, and for the first time, it felt like they weren't just battling the elements, they were facing their own fears head-on. The thought of starting anew was both thrilling and terrifying. As the diner filled with a sudden gust of wind, the door creaked open, and a figure stepped in, a stranger with a familiar face, but what could they possibly want now? Was this new arrival a catalyst for change, or just another wrinkle in their already complicated lives? The door swung wide, and the ding of the bell pierced the murmurs of apprehension in the diner. All eyes turned toward the newcomer, a tall figure with an unmistakable air about him. David squinted, confusion flooding his thoughts. That face, so familiar yet elusive, haunted him from a different time, a different life. Ethan. Lisa's whisper echoed in the stillness. What are you doing here? David's heart raced. Ethan was Lisa's old friend, someone who used to be a part of their lives before chaos reigned. He had once been a mentor to David, too, but that was before everything fell apart. Before Ethan moved away and left them to navigate a storm on their own. Hey, Lisa. I hoped I'd find you here. Ethan's voice was steady, but David picked up on an underlying urgency. Can I talk to you for a moment? Jake's little hands curled tighter around David's arm, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. David felt the protective instinct surge within him. This isn't a good time, he said, stepping forward, his voice low. You shouldn't be here. David, wait. Lisa's plea made his chest tighten. I need to hear him out. Ethan's brow furrowed. Look, this is important. It's about what happened when I left town. I didn't mean to stay away for so long. I wanted to help. The rain pounded harder against the windows, mirroring the tension hanging in the air. Lisa turned back to Ethan, her expression torn. Help with what? You just disappeared. For years, we needed you. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Jake, who was watching them with wide eyes, caught between old memories and new desires. I was dealing with my own demons, but now, it's different. I got involved with a program that supports families like yours. I thought maybe. David's heart dropped as he realized the implications. Programs aimed at healing families were everywhere, but they often came with strings attached. What do you know about our family? David felt his temper rise. You don't get to just waltz back in and act like you have the answers. Ethan took a deep breath, looking directly at David. I care about Lisa. I care about you both. And believe me, I would return sooner if I could. But I want to help now. I know you're both hurting. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but maybe, just maybe, I could offer something that would help. Jake tugged at Lisa again, confusion clear on his face. Mom. Can we trust him? The weight of those words hung heavily. David saw fear and longing flicker in Lisa's eyes as she searched for the right answer. Did they really have room in their lives for an old friend? Would this be another complication they couldn't afford? Trust takes time, Jake, Lisa said softly, kneeling down to meet her son's gaze. And maybe he can help us figure it out. Can we at least hear him out? David's heart raced. Could they? After everything, could this stranger truly help mend the fractures in their family? As the rain continued to fall, creating a rhythmic backdrop to the wavering hope in the diner, David felt a mixture of anger and a glimmer of possibility. "What do you have in mind?" he eventually asked, his voice a low rumble that had yet to decide if it would give in to hope or hang on to skepticism. Just then, the gust of wind rattled the door. With it brought in scattered paper, the local newspaper, fluttering right to their feet. The headline caught David's eye, making his heart skip a beat. Was this just a coincidence, or another twist in their story? He bent down to pick it up, scanning the words. There it was, a personal piece about change and resilience, a story that seemed eerily familiar. This might be more than just a conversation, David thought, glancing at Lisa and Jake. The possibilities of new connections and old ties intertwined in an unpredictable dance. As uncertainty swirled around them, questions began to form in David's mind. What did the future hold? The diner was unusually quiet, the sizzle from the grill and clink of silverware becoming faint echoes against the heavy tension in the air. David held the newspaper tightly. The headline loomed over him like an ominous shadow, igniting a swirl of doubt and curiosity. What if a story like this could hold the key to answers they so desperately needed? "David?" Lisa's voice broke through his thoughts, soft but fierce. "Are you okay?" He looked up at her, her brow creased with concern. In that moment, he could see in her eyes a sense of hope battling with the hurt from the past. He wanted to reassure her, but his mind couldn't shake off the warning bells. It's just this headline feels targeted. How can someone's life really change in 6 months? Is it that easy? Ethan shifted slightly, his expression turning serious. It's not easy at all. But I've seen it. I've seen what positive intervention can do. It's possible to turn your life around, with the right support. Jake was still looking between the three adults, piecing together the tension like a jigsaw puzzle. Does that mean we can have a better life? His voice was small but held a brave determination that shook David to his core. David knelt down to meet Jake's gaze, suddenly feeling the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. We have each other. That's a good start, right? But Jake, trusting someone, it takes time. You understand that, don't you? Yeah, Jake replied, a hint of disappointment in his voice. Turning back to Ethan, David felt his anger fade slightly. What kind of help do you actually think you can give? Ethan took a step closer, the hallway of tension narrowing. I'm connected with a group that specializes in family recovery. We can provide therapy sessions, access to community support, even opportunities for a fresh start. I didn't come back just to reminisce, I'm here to offer something real. David opened his mouth but found the words stuck in his throat. Part of him wanted to reject everything Ethan promised, to place barriers around Lisa and Jake, but there was another part, a flicker of hope that whispered, what if? Lisa watched the exchange with bated breath, her eyes shining with tears that threatened to spill. Could this really be our chance to heal? With uncertainty cloaking them all, David took a deep breath. It felt like committing to a leap of faith. We could talk about it, maybe. But I want to set boundaries. We're not just jumping in blind. Ethan nodded, the sincerity washing over him like a wave of relief. Absolutely. Whatever you need, whatever boundaries you want, I'll respect them. Just then, the rain lightened, and sunlight streaked through the clouds, casting a warm glow through the diner's windows. It felt oddly symbolic, a hint of hope, perhaps. Jake's face broke into a tentative smile, brightening the mood. Can we have pancakes if we do this? His innocence cut through the heaviness, eliciting a chuckle from David and Lisa. That sounds like a deal, Lisa replied, brushing away her tears. If we try this, pancakes are a must. As they settled into more relaxed conversation, David glanced back at the newspaper, but his mind was alive with possibilities. Maybe change was possible, maybe Ethan wasn't just a shadow from their past but a bridge to a better future, but as easy as it seemed to entertain hope, another thought nagged at him. What if this was all a setup? Just then, a figure in a dark suit stepped in through the entrance. The demeanor was striking, perhaps too confident, and the ears prickled. An unfamiliar tension built in David's chest as he turned his attention toward this newcomer. Was this about to become a day of reckoning or the harbinger of something darker yet? The man in the dark suit strolled in as if he owned the place. He scanned the diner, taking in the unremarkable decor and the clinking dishes, until his gaze landed on their table. David's heart quickened as the stranger approached, his presence shifting the atmosphere like an incoming storm. "Excuse me," the man said smoothly, a hint of arrogance in his tone. "Is this the table where a certain Ethan is sitting?" Ethan tensed up, visibly at odds with the man's confidence. "Who wants to know?" he replied, taking a protective step forward, instinctively separating himself from David, Lisa, and Jake. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm here on business. My name is Mark Holden. Let's just say, Ethan here has some explaining to do." David felt a reflexive urge to stand up, to shield Lisa and Jake from whatever turmoil this suited stranger was about to unleash. "What business do you have with him?" Mark leaned against their table, casting a sidelong glance toward Lisa, then at Jake. "Let's just say I'm not the only one in town wondering about a past that just won't stay buried. We have a way of handling things around here that can be unpleasant." Ethan's expression hardened. "You don't need to threaten anyone here. We're trying to do something good, something real." "You're out of line, Mark." Lisa shifted in her seat, gripping her fork tightly as her eyes darted between Ethan and Mark. "Could you keep your voices down? This is a family diner," she said, her voice barely above a whisper yet laced with defiance. The tension was palpable. Jake looked between the two men, his innocent face scrunching up in confusion. "Are we in trouble?" David swallowed hard, wanting to reassure Jake but uncertain how. "Let's try to stay calm," he urged, locking eyes with Ethan. "What is going on?" Mark straightened, his posture becoming aggressive. "Just making sure everyone here understands the stakes. Things happen when you go digging into the past. It's messy, and you don't want to be a part of it." Ethan stepped forward, the pulse of anxiety evident on his face. "I'm not digging into anything. I'm trying to help this family, help them heal from the damage of the past. It's your choice to show up here a ghost from those days." David couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter had the potential to tip over into chaos. His thoughts raced. What did Mark know? And how far was he willing to go to keep whatever past he was hinting at buried? Jake's small, brave voice broke in again. "Can we have pancakes now? It's a good day for pancakes, right?" Mark looked down at Jake, and for a moment, his hardness softened. "Pancakes, huh? This place does serve the best in town." "See?" David said, a spark of desperation driving his words. "Even your suits can appreciate a good pancake. Let's put aside threats, okay? Can't we just talk this out?" The tension hung heavy in the air, a taut string ready to snap. Mark held David's gaze, weighing options that were not lost on any of them. A standoff in the diner, who would blink first? Amidst the unease, a spark of defiance flickered to life in David. This was about family. They couldn't let anyone intimidate them into silence. He straightened up, ready to face whatever consequence looming, but just as he steeled himself for confrontation, Mark's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He glanced at the screen and his demeanor changed, just slightly. "This isn't over, Ethan. Not by a long shot." He stepped back, eyes narrowing into a promise of future conflict before he turned and stalked out the door. The diner felt lighter, but the shadows still loomed. David looked at Ethan, Lisa, and Jake. "What does that mean for us now?" Ethan opened his mouth but then closed it again, visibly shaken. David dreaded the answer. What had they just stirred up, and was it really the help they were hoping to find? The following weeks were a whirlwind inside the diner as the clouds of uncertainty began to dissipate, revealing new possibilities. David, despite the lingering threat from Mark, decided to take a chance on the community center. It felt like a long overdue breath of fresh air, a chance to breathe and regroup. Sarah was right by his side, her unwavering encouragement fueling his resolve. They spent countless hours drafting plans, meeting local organizations, and brainstorming resources. With the community behind them, the embers of hope flared with warmth. One afternoon, as Sarah reorganized the files, she felt the cool breeze from the open door. She looked up to see Lisa walking in, her posture a mix of determination and vulnerability. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with trepidation. David felt a tightening in his chest but nodded. "Sure." As they settled at their usual booth, the familiar clink of dishes and chatter flowed around them, reminding them both just how far they had come. "I want to be part of what you're building," Lisa said, her eyes earnest. "I don't want to just pop in and out. I need to show you, and Jake, that I can actually help. Can I be part of this?" Tension tightened again, but David found himself searching for understanding. "It's not just about you showing up, Lisa. It's about consistency. You need to stick around. Jake needs to see that you aren't going anywhere this time." He could see her heartache mirrored in his words, but he held firm. This was vital for Jake's well-being. "I know," she replied softly. "I'm not asking to dive in right away. I'll start small. I'll volunteer, make sure I'm part of the community center. I want to demonstrate what I can do." The earnestness in her tone began to soften David's stature just slightly. "All right," he said finally, finding a strange sense of hope in her request. "We'll give it a try." The following days transformed into a blend of hope and anxiety for everyone involved. The community center was a vision taking shape, and Lisa was at the forefront, organizing events and providing support. As she began to engage with others, David watched her bloom in ways that surprised him. She seemed more grounded, more committed than before. Like her spirit was lighting the path ahead, Jake noticed too. He loved seeing his mom working with other kids and families, laughing and encouraging. One afternoon, after a successful food bank drive, he looked up at Lisa with wide eyes. "Does this mean you're staying for good?" Lisa knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, buddy. I'm really here this time. You can count on me. I love you." The weight of her words sunk in, and David felt something surge within, a mixture of apprehension and relief. Could they really find a way to rebuild? Months passed, and with every new event at the center, David began to notice something shifting. The past hadn't disappeared, but it didn't overshadow their present. They were learning to communicate, to express family doubts and fears, and each small victory became a source of resilience. One day, Ethan approached David, an expression of genuine pride shining through. "You're making a difference, David. This community center idea? It's fantastic," he said sincerely. "By choosing to put others first, you're reshaping your world." "We're trying," David admitted, a warm rush of fulfillment washing over him. As the sun set one evening outside the diner, illuminating their little town in a golden hue, everything felt like it was moving towards something beautiful. The clouds had finally lifted. David glanced at Lisa, who was mingling with families and encouraging the children to join their community events, and he knew he had made the right choice. Then came the day of the grand opening for the community center. Excitement buzzed in the air as families gathered, holding hands, laughter ringing around them. David stood outside, looking at the vibrant banner flapping in the wind. He turned to Jake, who was bouncing on his heels with excitement. "Ready for this?" "Yeah, Dad. It's gonna be awesome." Jake beamed, uncontained joy shining bright. As they prepared to cut the ribbon, David couldn't help but glance at Lisa, and in that moment, he felt gratitude swell in his chest. For all the challenges, they had come together. They had built something beautiful from the ashes of their past. With one decisive snip of the scissors, the ribbon fell away, but it marked more than the opening of a center. It was a symbol of new beginnings, hope, and healing. The smiles on everyone's faces glimmered like stars, promising that even through storms, they could find the light. David felt his heart swell as laughter erupted and children darted in every direction. He glanced at Lisa, who winked at him, a lightness in her eyes, and just for a moment, he didn't think about the past, only about the future they could build, together. We can do this, David thought, feeling a wave of warm certainty wash over him. We can shape our lives into something worth living. And as the sun set over their town, painting the sky in rich shades of orange and pink, it felt like a promise, one of resilience, unity, and love, bound by a courageous leap into the unknown. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to this channel so you don't miss the next inspiring stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment what you felt about this emotional ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through their actions.